Thank you very much. I would like to welcome everyone to our webinar today as to mark the last day of our National Women's Month commemoration in celebrating women. And we just want to thank everyone for making time to join us today. Although we are also celebrating it not only on the national level, but we also have hosted our guests all over Africa, as well as the continent, outside of the continent itself. So we'd like to thank everyone and to acknowledge our guests who are joining us today. We've got our US Ambassador, Dr. Lana. You are welcome, Her Excellence. And we also want to welcome our minister. I don't know if she has already joined us at this moment. Our Minister of Tourism,
thank you.
Mmamloko, Ngubane. And we also want to welcome our EXCO, ATB Chairman, and the Patron, Women of Value EXCO, all the directors, as well as everyone who is attending today. In this place, you say you are honored, and we are honored to have you in this platform. We believe that all of us, we will gain a lot from our webinar today. All the speakers, I would like to also just acknowledge Thabo from Touch HD. I also acknowledge our chairperson for Women of Value Africa, Madam Angela Diamantino. Our other speaker, committee member for ATB Women, it's Dr. Maureen Tonk. You are all welcome. Also, Mrs. Annie Surgrue from EU, you are welcome as one of our speakers today. And our beautiful moderators, Madam Abigail, Ambassador of ATB, as well as Ma'am Rhulani Baloyi, who is the SABC editor, but today she joined us as the WOVA ambassador. You are welcome. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Juergen.
Yes, thank you very much, Taleb. I just wanted to also, of course, welcome everyone, the Honorable Minister Kubayi-Ngubane. Sorry if I pronounced this wrong, Minister of Tourism South Africa, the Honorable Ambassador Lana from the United States, Dr. Taleb Rifai, our patron, Mr. Cuthbert Ncube, Chairman of the African Tourism Board, and of course, we already know Diamantino and Abigail, who put this event together. Diamantino is in South Africa and Abigail in Nigeria. My name is Juergen Steinmetz. I'm one of the proud founding members of the African Tourism Board and a member of the Executive Board. I'm joining you actually from Honolulu, Hawaii, and it's 2 o'clock in the morning here, so hopefully, and you don't see this when you look at me. It's my pleasure to provide the technical platform for this important event, courtesy of the Travel News Group. And I just have 3 requests. One, if you're not yet a member of the African Tourism Board, please do so. Become a member. It's very simple. Go to africantourismboard.com and click on join. And all of those in the travel and tourism industry that are concerned about COVID-19, I'd like to invite you to join our global discussion with tourism leaders in 117 countries. Simply go to rebuilding.travel and you can join the discussion. There's no cost to do this. Finally, I wanted to congratulate again the Honorable Minister Najib Balala for having received the first Safer Tourism Seal, what is an initiative by rebuilding.travel. And anyone who's interested in finding out more about the Safer Tourism Seal, go to safertourismseal.com. That's all I have to say, and thank you again for having me, and I'm looking forward to the event. Are you unmuted, Dimakatse?
No, thank you very much. Over to the moderators. Ms. Abigail, can you take over? Over to you.
Thank you so much. It's a great day. It's a wonderful event and a wonderful outing. As we have welcomed our very important guests and participants from all over the world. Yes, it's our day, it's our month, it's our celebration for women in tourism. My name is Abigail Olagbaye. I'll be co-moderating with my sister. Her name is Rhulani, as earlier introduced. And right now, I would love to introduce, we're supposed to take our anthem. Can we just have our anthem right now? Juergen, can we have an anthem? Okay, in the absence of that, we can just move on, and would love to invite specially Dr. Taleb Rifai for his short remarks as we commence this program.
Thank you so much, Abigail. Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Ambassador, for being with us today. We at ATB are very, very proud to be part of this very important celebration today. It's really an honor for all of us. We are celebrating African women. Africa altogether is a pride for all of us. We all believe at ATB that Africa is the future of this world. We have to believe in that honestly and sincerely, because what's happening in Africa today will result in making Africa a new player in the world of tomorrow. But women, particularly in Africa, have always played a very, very important role, very central role here. And it's very, very important to emphasize this and highlight it. We at ATB think that tourism has played a big role in this. You know, when I was still in UNWTO, we did a study about tourism and women with UN Women. It was Ms. Bachelet, still there, who's now High Commissioner for Human Rights. She was President of the Republic of Chile. And we came up with some very, very good conclusions. That while 65% of the workforce in tourism are women, only 17% have leadership positions in tourism. So it's a very important life-earning sector for women. Yet there's a lot of work to be done to arrive to equality and justice as we know it. It is therefore a very, very important sector to look into. Women have played increasingly very important role in tourism, particularly in heritage and in their special experiences that people have. I happen to be also a board member of Airbnb based in California, USA. And we are now trying to utilize the skills of women in cooking and in sewing and all of these very important skills to be able to utilize them in the special experience that anybody has when it comes to tourism. Experience is a very important part of travel anywhere. I want to thank all of you for being with us today. I'm looking forward to your very good inputs, very good interaction. Thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you, Cuthbert. Thank you, Abigail.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Taleb, for your remarks. I would want to call on the Minister for her keynote address. Ms. Demakatso.
Thank you very much, Ms. Abigail. I would like to welcome the minister who is the first speaker. I'm not too sure if we will be able to play the national anthem before the minister speaks.
Let me try this again. I thought actually I played it, but I don't think you heard it. So I try that again now.
Thank you, Juergen.
It's, I have to apologize. It's for some reason, it's switched to the next video and I don't know why. Okay, here we go. Let's try that again. Thank you very much, Ms. Abigail. I would like to introduce our minister, Minister Mmamloko Kubayi-Ngubane. She is the Minister of Tourism for South Africa. I'm not too sure if she is already in. If we can just check if our minister has arrived.
I've long been here, Dimakato.
Thank you very much, my honorable minister. You are so welcome. We are honored to have you today in this platform, celebrating women and also celebrating women in the tourism space together with you. We would like to say this is your platform. As we said, this is the last day of August, which is Women's Month in South Africa. And we would like to have you as our leader in this day to take us through your plans that you have for women in the tourism space, as well as in Africa. As we in South Africa, as women in tourism, we're looking forward to work with other women. And we say in South Africa, it's a country for all, and we are celebrating it today with our fellow Africans and even other guests who are coming from other countries. You are welcome. The stage is yours. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Acknowledging Dimakato, thank you for the invite and as well those words. Let me acknowledge the ambassador, US ambassador to South Africa, Dr. Lana. Acknowledge Professor Taleb Rifai. Acknowledge UNWTO Africa Program Officer, hope she's here. Ms. Lydia ATB Ambassador, Ms. Abigail, ATB Executive Chairperson, Mr. Ncube, ATB Women's Committee Acting Chairperson, Dr. Maureen Tonk, Women of Value Africa Chairperson and ATB Ambassador, Ms. Angela Diamante. I saw my brother here as well, Thabo Touch. Ladies and gentlemen, I do note that there are quite a number of people who are in the tourism sector, both in South Africa, on the continent and globally, who have joined us. I want to take this opportunity to thank you for inviting me to share my views in this virtual platform as we mark the last day of the month of August, which in our country is celebrated as Women's Month, and pay tribute to women who are here, those in our sector, our country and globally, who have continued to play a major role in developing our nations and making our world a better place. And we continue, as we continue, let us continue the fight for gender fairness, gender justice, until we rid the world of gender inequality. We have nothing to lose but our oppression as women. Earlier today, we had a media launch of this year's Tourism Month, the September month, which starts tomorrow. Our launch marked a kickstarting of activities that we'll undertake in the month of September as part of our domestic marketing campaign, so that we can get more South Africans to explore their own country. You'd note that, ladies and gentlemen, in South Africa currently, as we currently do not have international tourism, and I'll deal with that as I speak. We only focus now as part of our recovery strategy on domestic tourism. We've made domestic tourism the first pillar upon which our tourism recovery depend on after the devastating impact of COVID-19, both in our sector and in our country. Indeed, COVID-19 brought the tourism sector to a standstill and actually brought to a sharp relief how gendered the fault lines of the tourism sector are. The loss of livelihoods in the sector has had a disproportionate impact of women as compared to men and others, because we found that women have been worst off affected. In light of this development, and as we are busy working on a plan to ensure that tourism sector recovers, I think it is timely for us to have this discussion about the role of women in the tourism value chain. The role of women in the sector has to be highlighted so that unfairness and gender injustices can be dealt with decisively during the recovery period. The question we normally ask, or we have to ask ourselves, is why is it that women are making very slow progress towards the achievement of gender equality? Or is it the responsibility of women alone to ensure that there is gender equality? Half of the world's population is made up of women, yet women largely invisible in the world of work. According to UN Women, women still have major barriers to overcome in order to achieve gender equality in the world of work. The game in the world of has been rigged against women, and this is demonstrated by the following, amongst other things. Globally, over 2.7 billion women are legally restricted from having the same choice of jobs as men. Women remain less likely to participate in the labor market than men around the world. Labor force participation rate for women aged 25 to 54 is 63%, compared to 94% of men. Women are more likely to be unemployed than men. Women are overrepresented in informal and vulnerable employment. Globally, women are paid less than men. The gender wage gap is estimated to be 23%, meaning that women earn 77% of what men earn. And the situation is even worse in developing economies. Women bear disproportionate responsibility for unpaid care and for domestic work in their households. The aforementioned issues are clear demonstration that the odds are heavily stacked against women in the world of work. However, the tourism sector is one of the few sectors in which women's participation is higher than that of men. According to the International Labour Organization, women account for between 60% and 70% of global tourism labor force. Despite this high numerical representation, women's participation is not reflected in the roles that women play in the technical or managerial leadership of the sector, so that women's work in tourism is dominated by informality, high staff turnover, long working hours, subcontracting, flexible working condition, the prevalence of casual workers, and seasonal variety in employment. There are organizational and structural characterization of the tourism sector. According to the ILO, that makes women's working condition a challenge, and this includes the following. The first one being the tourism sector has a highly variable demand cycle, which imposes unsocial working hours on employees and can make shift patterns unpredictable, both of which are difficult to reconcile with family and care responsibilities. The second one is seasonal work can demand very high levels of time commitment during some part of the year, while offering little or no work during the off-season. The third one, business can be located at some distance from residential areas, particularly in poorer countries and communities, imposing both travel and time costs on women who frequently have limited access to both financial and time flexibility of resources. The last one, certain work areas, notably hotel and restaurant kitchens, are traditionally male preserves in terms of employment opportunities and work culture, and this can act as a major barrier to female access and opportunity. The above, ladies and gentlemen, the above mentioned are the structural and organizational challenges that we need to deal with in order to make the role of women in tourism more meaningful and their working conditions more bearable. As we mark the 25th anniversary of the 4th World Conference on Women and adoption of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, we need to take on what has been achieved towards gender equality, particularly in the tourism sector. So meaning we need to take stock of this, assess what has been achieved, is it sufficient? The Declaration and Platform for Action outlines a set of action that government and other societal stakeholders need to do to achieve gender equality. And this includes access to decent work and closing the gender pay gap, rebalancing of the care workload, ending violence against women, reducing maternal mortality rates, and realizing sexual and reproductive health and rights, and participation in power and decision-making at all levels. This is commonly referred to as gender mainstreaming, and it is incumbent on all of us to make it a norm in our daily practices in all organizations, whether in government, whether in private sector, whether in non-governmental, non-profit organization, and so forth. For our part, the department commenced with the Women in Tourism program in 2013 as part of the platform and as a platform to drive initiatives that support the development and empowerment of women in the tourism sector. This platform recognizes the challenges faced by women entrepreneurs who are often found at the bottom end of the tourism economic value chain. The aim of the program is to create a conversation platform for advancing transformation and integration of women from different socio-economic backgrounds and spectra within the sector towards ensuring that their interests converge on a common and sustainable development goal within the tourism industry. There are women in tourism chapters in all our 9 provinces in South Africa. While it is true that women in the sector are facing challenges at all levels of the tourism value chain, it was decided that the first phase of Women in Tourism initiative should target women who own and operate SMMEs and cooperatives within the tourism and hospitality sector. In this regard, the department has established an incubation program with a number of rural incubators aimed at rural women entrepreneurs to help them manage and grow their businesses. To intensify support for women entrepreneurs, the Department of Tourism has set aside a target of 40% preferential procurement budget for women businesses over the next 5 years. In 2013-14 financial year, a study was conducted by the department in trying to ascertain the causes of the less women in executive level within the industry, be it at board level or company executive. And the finding were that of such caliber do not exist. As government then, we took a decision to try and close the gap identified and provide the industry with these women by training them. In partnership with one of our higher education institutions, UNISA, we developed a program that is running for that has been running for 3 years on a pilot. So far, the program has produced 60 women who graduated. These women today, we are finding them as leaders of the hotels, running in terms of regions, whom we took from being just at the level of entry level of management. Today, they are the managers that are running regional hotels. There is still a lot for us to do, and that needs all of us to work together to achieve gender equality. This work requires both us, women and men, to work together with a recognition that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, as Martin Luther King reminded us. I thank you.
Thank you very much, our Honorable Minister. We appreciate your presentation, and I think we will be able to move forward to our moderators. Ambassador Abigail or Sis Rhulani? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So to progress in the program, we have the U.S. Ambassador to South Africa, and Mr. Makatsu, could you present her biodata?
Thank you very much, Ambassador Abigail. At this particular moment, we would like to welcome Her Excellence, U.S. Ambassador to South Africa. It's Dr. Lana Max, who will be presenting to us and giving us her talk based on the information that she would like to share on women empowerment from where she is coming from. Dr. Lana, you are welcome. The stage is yours. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Thank you for that wonderful and warm introduction. Greetings, Minister Kubayi-Ngubane. I'm so pleased to see you again, if only virtually. Hello to Dr. Winnie Chirumbala, Executive Chairperson of Women of Value SA, members of Women of Value SA, and distinguished guests. I am honored to be here today and to address such an exceptional gathering of luminaries. The women represented here are indeed the guiding lights of South Africa. I wish we could be meeting in person, but I cannot tell you how pleased I am to be spending the final day of Women's Month discussing how we can leverage on sectors and regional value chain to help both empower and advance the rights of women, especially in the times of COVID-19. On a practical level, the United States has helped South Africa combat.
Plug in. I'm plugged in.
On a practical level, the United States has helped South Africa combat this terrible disease by providing ventilators, personal protective equipment, oxygen therapy equipment, hand washing stations, and through our PEPFAR program, we've helped with contact tracing of potentially infected individuals and flown in a Hercules C-130 to make sure your frontline workers had enough PPE. All told, the United States has contributed over 765 million rands to South Africa in COVID-19 assistance. As we move into a new phase of pandemic response, focusing on the economic impact of COVID-19, we realize that several months of a very necessary lockdown has had this tremendous effect on the economy of South Africa. We still don't know the extent of the damage, but the picture that's starting to develop is that women have been disproportionately affected. The service industries in particular have been hit hard as the initial lockdown levels closed many businesses. Reduced consumer spending has further weakened the sector of the economy and has increased the pain felt by women. As a female entrepreneur myself, I know something of the obstacles we all face as we struggle to grow our businesses, especially in such a tumultuous time. Being an entrepreneur isn't easy under any circumstances, but being a woman potentially makes the journey to owning a successful and sustainable business even more difficult. Though we haven't experienced anything like the coronavirus in the past 100 years, the economic disasters of 2008, 2009 can give us a significant model as to how we will face the coming months and years through shifting philosophies and focused consolidations. We are talking about the South African economy today with its high unemployment rate and imbalanced market parity. One way to address this significant challenge is to create opportunities for more female entrepreneurs. Local experts predict that by 2022, female entrepreneurs have the potential to boost the South African economy by 175 billion rands. We need to ensure that women have the opportunity to work with mentors and see people who look like themselves in leadership positions. Strong role models are essential to inspiring others. All of you in positions of leadership can help ensure that the business networks which foster new business opportunities are inclusive and don't default to something else. Creating inclusive networks requires thoughtful, conscious effort, and I know all of you today are committed to creating those networks. Recognizing the tremendous promise from advancing women's participation in the global economy, its positive effect on the bottom line for businesses, and the outsized overall effect on the economic prosperity, the United States government is investing in women's economic empowerment through a variety of programs. The Women's Global Development and Prosperity Initiative, or WGDP initiative, seeks to reach 50 million women in the developing world by 2025 through US government activities, private-public partnerships, and a new innovative WGDP fund. In its first year, WGDP reached 12 million women worldwide. The United States government has an annual International Visitor Leadership Program focused on WGDP, overcoming barriers to women's economic participation. This project is designed for men and women, government officials, political leaders, lawmakers, nonprofit practitioners, members of the business community, and others in developing countries who are able to impact women's full and free participation in the economy, whether it be locally or globally. I'm pleased to inform you that the United States Embassy in Pretoria is supporting a young South African businesswoman to participate in this program. She will travel, when safe to do so, to Washington, D.C., New York, and other locations across the United States to attend meetings with federal, state, and local governments and private companies, business incubators, financial institutions, multilateral and non-government organizations to observe the social, economic, and political factors that influence and encourage women's economic participation. This program will bring approximately 20 women and men from around the world together to the United States to examine best practices for reducing restrictive legal, regulatory, and cultural barriers to women's full and free participation in the economy. The United States Mission launched the Academy for Women Entrepreneurs in 2019, a White House-led initiative that is providing entrepreneurship training through the Dream Builders online platform and Arizona State University's Thunderbird School of Management. Over 100 entrepreneurs will complete 6 months of training in Cape Town, Bloemfontein, Durban, Johannesburg, and Pretoria in the coming months. And we're launching a program for 125 more entrepreneurs later this year. This program serves as a networking platform supporting access to peer-to-peer mentorship, business partners, and scaling opportunities with businesses in South Africa and the United States. When women are economically empowered, they invest back into their families and communities, producing a multiplier effect that spurs economic growth and stability. I'd like to encourage those of you already established in the business world to contribute to developing the next generation of businesswomen and female entrepreneurs by making mentoring and advising a part of your work. And for those of you with entrepreneurial ambitions, projects, or ideas, remain focused and undeterred. If you put in the hard work as I did, as many here with us today have done, success will come to you. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this afternoon, and please be assured that the US is a true and unconditional friend of South Africa, and that we will do our utmost to promote tourism from the United States to South Africa post-COVID in unprecedented numbers and in unprecedented dollars. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lana Max, for your beautiful remarks. US Ambassador to South Africa, we're grateful. Can we now have a short clip on Women of Value Africa before we take our next keynote speaker? Over to you, Juergen. Juergen, do you have the clip on Women of Value Africa? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. May I now invite Ms. Zimakatso Mawela for her keynote address. But before then, I'd love to present her bio to you. Ms. Zimakatso Mawela is the chairperson for Africa Tourism Board Women Empowerment Committee, and she is the chairperson for the Ambassadors Forum of the African Tourism Board. She is the founder and current CEO of WOVA, which is Women of Value South Africa, an organization that received a 2019 Gauteng Premier Inclusive Economy Award for successfully implementing the Women Entrepreneurship and Enterprise Development Programs. She is the President for Women of Value Africa, WOVA, an organization represented within the 4 Africa sub-regions and focusing on regional economic transformation programs. She's an expert for gender equality and social inclusion, women economic empowerment, EU ecosystem development for small enterprise. She is currently serving as a member of the UNWTO Leadership Task Force, a committee represented by African Ministers of Tourism and currently chaired by the Ghana Minister of Tourism. Ms. Dimakatso Mawela is the former chairperson for SADC Women in Tourism Committee for the SADC region under formation of former RETOSA, that is, Regional Tourism Organization in Southern Africa. She's editor-in-chief for an African regional publication known as Letlotlo magazine. She is the former chairperson for the Gauteng Cooperatives Provincial Working Group under the formation of the Gauteng Department of Economic Development. She is the managing director for Lakanifo Investment Trading, known as NKPI Holding, a company that focuses on textile manufacturing and supply. They also play in the MICE sector, technology and enterprise development consulting. She is the finalist for 2018 Gauteng Premier Women in Leadership Award and featured in 2016 BBQ magazine September issue. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, welcome with me, Ms. Dimakatso Mawela, for our keynote address.
Thank you very much, Madam Abigail, and thank you for having me today and for reading my profile. I would like to give an overview of where we come from together with the Ministry of Tourism. In 2016, it was in this month when we launched what was called Vision 2020 and Beyond. Our program was to focus on developing women SMMEs and women cooperatives based on the challenges that they are faced with for them to be able to access the opportunities within the bigger scale of the economy. Since that time, we took upon ourselves working together with different stakeholders, our partners in government, our partners in the private sector, and also our partners in Africa as a region. We took upon ourselves to take 20 women SMMEs and 50 cooperatives as a pilot project, of which it was last year in November, where the 50 cooperatives and the 20 SMMEs, they graduated from the program which we called Accelerator Program. When we came up with the program, it was basically to make sure that they become ready. Their enterprises are also in compliance, because one of the issues that are faced by the women SMMEs and the women cooperatives, it is in terms of the compliance, it is also the readiness of their business to be able to participate in the bigger scale of the business itself. We had the whole program to say in 2020, we would like to see the cooperatives and SMMEs being led and owned by women and youth, being able to create jobs, because the issue that we are facing, it is the unemployment within the space of our economy, especially when it comes to women and young people. We also looked at the tourism as the sector that you can leverage on the different value chain sectors within the whole sector of tourism. So when we started working within that space, we looked at other areas to say, what is that women can leverage on in terms of the tourism value chain? So that is when we were able to make sure that our women, we introduced them in the bigger scale. However, in this year, when we were just about to venture into another program. That is when the pandemic came into being. So we had to refocus and see what is that we can do in terms of making sure that they become sustainable even during the COVID-19. We introduced our women who are in the textile industry to get into the PPE manufacturing, of which it is something that they've been doing at this particular moment. We are saying with that, we were able to create more than 100 jobs during the time. And at this particular moment, we are working on the project that is going to create more than 1,400 jobs starting in the next week. We will continuously give the information and the feedback on what we are doing and how we are doing it. Nevertheless, we are still inviting our key partners in making sure that they work with us. I really like the presentation by the minister and the ambassador when they are saying we are here open to work with women. And we as women of value, we believe that together when we are working with our key strategic partners, we will be able to achieve more. We are looking at our vision, as we are saying, it's Vision 2020 and beyond. That means we are not looking at only now, but we are saying beyond 2020. And as we are saying that, we aligned ourselves with the National Development Plan for 2030 and to say, together with government, we are here to walk the journey of making sure that we also mainstream our women into the bigger scale of the economy. And with our plans that we had in this year, we had to cancel most of them, especially in the tourism space on the event side of things. However, as we are looking and anticipating the opening and the recovery of our tourism sector, we start to plan at this particular moment, working very close with ATB as the regional structure. As you could see, our collaboration with them as a national and the regional structure of women empowerment. We are saying we would want to tap onto the regional integration. We would like to tap onto the scale of seeing how our women, they can form strategic partnerships so that they are able to grow not only within their national structures. And as women in Africa, we also saying who can do better, who is doing better in a particular space, in a particular sector. If South Africa is doing better in the space of events, if South Africa or Angola is doing better in another space. So we would want to take all the sectors that are related to tourism and say how we can be able to make sure that we leverage on that, working together with the regional structures, including your UNWTO, which is one of the structures that have been working with us, you know, having the program for women and introducing us to even other women in a bigger scale. We would want to say in this instance, we are planning and we are hoping to see most of our stakeholders working with us going forward. In year 2021, we already have the lined up of bigger events, which is the Tourism Enterprise and Supply Development Seminar. We also have in plan the Food and Wine Summit and Expo. We're also looking at the Regional Sectors Industrialization Summit, of which I believe that most of our stakeholders who are attending this webinar today, they will form part of what we would want to achieve, and they will be working with us going forward. In those few words, I would like once again to welcome everyone in this platform today, and everything that we are going to discuss today, we will take as a homework and making sure that we implement. I also believe that we always have to give the feedback. We don't want to launch programs. We don't want to start programs which we don't even know if they are making impact. With Women of Value, we believe in the impact. We believe that together we can go far. There's a slogan that I love so much that says, alone I can go faster, but together we can go far. So as we're holding hands together today, from South Africa into the region of Africa, we are saying we can be able to grow and to become sustainable even after the pandemic and COVID-19. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Demakatso Mawela, WOVA Chairperson, founder rather, and the Chairperson for Africa Tourism Board Committee on Women in Leadership and Entrepreneurship, and also Chairperson for Africa Tourism Board Ambassadors Forum, amongst the many hats that she wears. Thank you so much for those remarks. I would love to invite our next speaker, Mr. Thabo Touch, or Thabo Molefe. Pardon me if I'm not getting something right about your name, but in your profile, I have your name as Thabo Molefe, or Thabo Touch. Okay, so I would love to read his bio in 1 minute. Mr. Thabo Touch, in 2005, was the CEO, he became the CEO of Touch Condoms Limited, producing high-end close-to-skin anti-climax condoms. We have with us a very versatile businessman. In 2014, he co-founded Touch Warwick Wines, which broke record selling of wines in history, with the first bottle sold at 1.3 million rands. In 2015, he staged the first ever jazz event to be graced by 3 presidents, former and current Thabo Mbeki, President Thabo Mbeki, President Motlanthe Galema, and President Cyril Ramaphosa. In 2016, he launched Touch HD, first largest Black-owned digital radio station and podcast platform. In 2018, he founded THD, a 4K 100% African content VOD platform. And in 2019, he launched his first gin named 48 Gin, which is one of South Africa's best-selling gins. In 2019 also, he launched THD24.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Mr. Thabo Molefe, to speak on disrupting the status quo, tourism value chain inclusion. You're welcome, Mr. Thabo. Over to you.
Thank you for this warm welcome. And once again, I'd like to acknowledge my Honorable Minister of Tourism, very vivacious, strong leader we have, Mmamloko Kubayi-Ngubane. Let me also welcome US Ambassador to South Africa, Dr. Lana. Thank you for your great remarks as well, and all the programs that you are facilitating through your office. Thanks to our host, Ms. Demakatso Mawela, for putting this event together and making me part of it. I'd like to acknowledge our chairman of the African Tourism Board, and Dr. Cuthbert and Ncube, and my sister, Abigail, Olagbaye, Ambassador, and my dear colleague, former colleague and sister, Rhulani, who is the SABC editor. And I did not prepare a lengthy speech, but mine is to engage. And when my sister told me that I'll be focusing on speaking on the value chain and where women play in this sector, it's a subject that's very close to my heart, because when we look at 2020, the conversations we are having are still the same conversations we had at the verge of our democracy in 1993, when some organizations were formed to best position women to be in a space of ownership. And if you look at today, 26 years later, we're still having these conversations. So the big point is, at what point do we have a tipping point, or do we pivot from seeing more or demonstrating more of what these conversations has led to, by ensuring that our women are not seen as beneficiaries or not seen as recipients of these great funds and opportunities, but they also play in the forefront of policy generation. They play in the forefront of remodeling or even in the landscape economically. I say that because speaking just in the space of tourism, let's take OR Tambo, for example, the gateway into the continent. In Gauteng, OR Tambo is probably the third largest employer in the hospitality and tourism business. And one of the conversations I had earlier with Austi Makatso was, we have a group of women whereby Ekurhuleni being the municipal or the city that hosts this beautiful airport, you land from anywhere in the world and you see ladies cleaning the airport, Black women as cleaners, wearing a uniform of a company that is, I looked at the board, male dominated and predominantly white male. And the conversations we're having is, Black people did not choose to be cleaners out of choice. There are, historically, there are political reasons that led to such. But in a day where we have the opportunity to change and disrupt the current status quo, there are organizations in Tembisa, in Benoni, women-owned organizations that should form part of the companies that are receiving these huge tenders to be cleaning your airports, to be cleaning your major hotels. When we look at what, the enablement of what BEE is supposed to do in trying to even the economic landscape, you ask yourself, when we gather for Parliament every February, that happens at the State of the Opening Address, State of the Nation Address, all policymakers meet in the same city, stay in these amazing hotels. And if we are serious about transformation, the question we should be asking ourselves is, TGCSA, the Grading Tourism Council, we see plaques and awards on the wall, this is a 5-star hotel and all the accomplishments. Why can't we make it mandatory? And I ask my dear sister, Minister of Tourism, to say for any large hotel chain to meet compliancy status, we should be asking ourselves, why don't we also make it mandatory for these chain hotels to have inclusion of female entrepreneurs that forms part of their compliancy, to demonstrate that we are serious about empowerment. We appreciate the opulency of these lovely restaurants and hotels that we dine in, but they all get their liquor license from government. They all get their license to operate from government. So I think it's mandatory for us to start gearing conversations that lead into pure demonstration and bring about the change that we all yearning for. Now, we can talk about the fleet business from airline, ground transportation, but I'm talking precisely on sectors that it's easy to start the conversations of inclusion. When you look at the chains like your Sun International, Southern Sun, I travel extensively and I ask a lot of questions. You ask yourself, how do we have participation, not just of Black ownership, but of female ownership? And I think this department being led by a very respected, honorable, hardworking sister, I believe these type of conversations will leap that transformation, will bring forth that void that still exists in tourism, where you see women in ownership, but not just being contracted as service providers, but also playing in the issue of ownership. I recently went to a beautiful game lodge owned by a lady called Maria. Beautiful, and I was impressed that this amazing lodge that boasts of so many buffaloes, the Big Five, is led by a female entrepreneur. But she mentioned some of her challenges, and those challenges are the type of challenges that every female owned business go through. Is always major female-owned businesses. We always question who's funding this particular person, who's behind her. We don't make those assertions or ask those questions on businesses that are predominantly male-owned, because it has become okay for men to be in a space of ownership. And we normally criticize women's ability before they are put to test. So I think the conversation should lead to, in policy making from the Department of Tourism, let's identify those opportunities where we feel time for inclusion is now, and how do we facilitate that inclusion? Before we rate you, or you are great, given that 5-star rating or 4-star rating, part of the requirement, let us see your ownership structure. Get into any bar of 5-star or 4-star establishment. I am in the space of the wines, as you did mention earlier, and I trust the honorable participating guests. You enjoy your red wines. I'll make sure you get yourself a bottle. I still think I make the finest grapes, and I look forward to exporting some. If not, we probably are already exporting to the US, but Ambassador will catch up that conversation on a beautiful glass of a Cab Sauv. But the point I'm making is that we can no longer be in a position where we appreciate services and products that we consume, but in the value chain, females don't participate the most, if not equally. I still go to all these amazing wine expo, gin expo, and the crafters, the makers, the guys who brew, it's a male-dominated sector. And I get to be invited to speak at these culinary events. When I speak, women are the ones who are serving as waitresses. The guys who are driving the narrative, it's still a male-dominated sector. So if we dominate in just the conversation, how do we even leap to dominating in true demonstration, in a real world? How do we even make it acceptable to see the not just female inclusion, but also female ownership in that space? So with celebrating all these amazing places to visit, fine dining and best grapes, we need to ask ourselves in the value chain, where is the participation of women ownership? Because women participation has layers. We have to be serious about ownership. And if we are serious about empowerment, our minister, you are available to start looking at those opportunities where we legislate certain things, such as those who are in a position of policy. Let's make it mandatory when we award you your license, because everyone who operates in this country had to apply through your office to operate. They had to apply through the liquor board to be able to be in the hospitality and to offer any form of dining and wine for that matter. So it's purely it's important for your office to look at these opportunities, or look at this scenario as an opportunity to start looking at how do we draft policies that ensure the inclusion of women is not necessarily at a point of service, but it's also the point of ownership. And how do we ensure that when we look for BEE compliancy, from a point of applying for your operational license, we ask questions as to who is in the structure of ownership. I think those are small steps that can lead to this big leap of faith that we meet again next year this time, and we start having statistics and compare how did this conversation change the current status? How did we move from complaining about lack of female participation to actually celebrating? Because to say in Women's Month, you cannot be making these kinds of assertion and statements in an economy that still does not recognize women as leaders. So we need to be careful when we say we celebrate Women's Month. It's not just the issue of it's in our calendar year. We celebrate women by demonstrating what we, those in the position of power, we've done. I say that because in the organizations that I also happen to lead, which is Soweto TV, our entire exco was male dominated. I joined the company in September last year. We had to make changes. Our creative space, our editorial rooms, we had to make changes. So it's important that every single person participating in this conversation, we reflect in our own little structures to say, as we expand and grow, with engaging with programs that the Ambassador Marx mentioned, where they'll be taking people from women from South Africa to engage in some of their platforms across. These are the type of programs we need to look back and say, how did it open doors for other female, Black-owned female businesses from Mmamloko, from KwaMashu, from Umlazi? Because sometimes these opportunities happen to be your metropolitan, Joburg, Cape Town, Durban opportunities. So it's important to even the landscape. Participation and inclusion is key. And I ask those in a position of awarding licenses, ensuring that you operate, we make it mandatory for women ownership to be paramount and to be prioritized. And I do trust that my Minister in Tourism, because I know that when I first engaged in Parliament on the issue of data must fall, she didn't hesitate to engage the networks and brought them down to their knees to account. So we expect the same invigorating spirit to run through your office and ensure that when we talk about ownership, it's not something that we meet about in these platforms, but we can give the statistics as to how these conversations led to the change that we need to celebrate. So I thank you for participating in this program. I look forward to other participants and hear from what you have to say. But I generally think, given from what you shared with us earlier, Minister, we are on a road to transformation. We are those agents of making that leap possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your your strong perspective on women ownership. Women must now begin to play big in the economic space, which also takes me to my short remarks. I'll also be talking about the value chain in Africa when it comes to women in tourism. I want to talk about women as containers of greatness in unleashing Africa's regional value chain and evolving the value chain into a circular economy. We all know and we all recognize tourism as an economic activity. And of course, we know about the linear model of economic production, which the picture is from extraction to production, from production to consumption, from consumption to waste. But we must now evolve that business model or economic model into a circular economy as we advance the growth of tourism and as women become even more stronger in terms of being actors in the economic space. An educated and empowered woman is not only an unstoppable force, but an institution that constitutes the building blocks of an organization, a nation, a continent. Hence, the public and private sector must embrace deliberately the consciousness of creating enabling policies for women's economic participation. The private sector must pave the way for access to capital and empowerment opportunities for women to create wealth, build capital base, to drive the economy through their businesses. And those businesses must be sustainable, must result in sustainable tourism development in our continent. Globally, women leaders and female actors have successfully broken the ceiling, surgically disrupting limits and cultural stereotypes, challenging themselves and the status quo. A nation, continent that delineates its female population unfavorably only succeeds in denying itself a conundrum of constructive, productive, positive, progressive development outcomes in all spheres of its economic landscape. Now, women constitute about half of the world's population. Being at the front line, turning the demographic numbers into economic power and advantage must now be our focus as women in tourism. And to wrap up my remarks, my very short remarks, we must realize that in the value chain from the consumer to the bookings, to the travel intermediaries, the travel agent, the tour guides, to destination managers, destination management companies, to accommodation, and what have you, the entire tourism ecosystem. We must evolve from the linear model of production to a circular economy, whereby the entire the process of the value chain now becomes regenerative, now becomes sustainable. And to have that, for us to have that situation, women must step out. Women must step out of their comfort zones. Women must step into the economic space. Women must begin to own, like our speaker has said earlier, women must begin to own and control in those loops in the value chain, you know, in terms of the transportation sector, the accommodation. You know, women must be owners, hotel owners, airline owners, ship owners, and what have you. They must begin to call the shots. They must begin to control the way we travel, the way we you know, evolve as you know, in terms of our entire tourism ecosystem. So to women, I want to say your dream and purpose and your unique set of gifts are as distinct as your DNA. And you must bring that DNA to play. That unique DNA, you must discover them, you must bring it to play and bring it to bear on Africa's tourism development. You cannot afford to stay under cultural stereotypes and under whatever limitations that a society places on you. When you do step out, you must step out and take action. We must pursue our dreams and our purpose with focus. We must hone our skills. We must support other women whose paths cross ours in our career journey. We must give no room to envy, to hatred. We must support one another. We must selectively and strategically choose our network. We must conserve our energy and be laser focused. To our men, I want to say, continue to be pathfinders and recognize women as equal partners. I believe that as our men continue to be pathfinders in Africa's tourism development, the very, very significant changes will come from the female gender. Now, I hope you won't call me biased by saying that, but it's my strong belief. To governments, I want to say empower women, partner with the private sector, provide an enabling environment for women to thrive that is devoid of fear, intimidation, lack of resources. By all means, mitigate political instability, high crime rates, complex visa arrangements, unsafe roads, poor sanitation, high cost of electricity, poor internet connectivity. These are all factors that undermine tourism development. So dear African woman in tourism, in Africa's regional value chain, you must pursue your bigger picture. You must see the bigger picture. You must pursue your vision, the vision you carry in your belly. You must unleash that vision as you act in your specific space or in the particular loop in the value chain that constitutes your strength and your capabilities through the unbundling and recoupling and leading changes in identified sections where your strongest capabilities can find expression. So get that skill, make that call, start and complete that training, write and publish that book, produce the movie, join that association, start the business, run for that office, network and walk your dream, irrespective of pain or gain. Be ready and be prepared for opportunity, because if you carry a vision, you carry greatness, and you've got to birth it. We must be ready. Thank you so much. That is all I have to say. At this moment, we must now progress. I want to invite our chairperson, Mr. Cuthbert Ncube. He is the chairperson of Africa Tourism Board. He's a seasoned tourism executive and has held leadership positions within international and regional organizations. His mandate at the Africa Tourism Board is to leverage strategic relationships in the industry and beyond to unify Africa's efforts in positioning herself as a tourism powerhouse. Cuthbert has had the honor to show his knowledge in the tourism industry as a guest speaker at various local, regional, and international conferences. He is passionate, he is a humanitarian. Cuthbert is involved in several community development initiatives in his capacity, branded and awarded a lifetime membership of worldwide branding in a WOVA registry of executives, professionals, and entrepreneurs. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Mr. Cuthbert Ncube, the Chairperson for Africa Tourism Board. Over to you, Mr. Cuthbert.
Thank you so much, Chair. Really appreciate. Honorable Minister Kubayi-Ngubane, it is an honor once again to have you, our Minister of Tourism in the Republic of South Africa. We have acknowledged your untiring endeavors within the tourism space, and Madam Ambassador, Her Excellency Dr. Lana, U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of South Africa, your passion and drive in contributing towards Africa's economic growth is much appreciated and goes a long way. The founder of Women of Valley Africa, Ms. Dimakatso, we really appreciate Dr. Taleb Rifai, the patron of the African Tourism Board and the chair of our Project Hope, the Executive Council of African Tourism Board, Ms. Angela Diamantino, the chairperson of Women of Valley Africa, Thabo, my brother, the chief executive of Touch HD. We need a few good men with an inclusive vision to say, let's implement transformation. Our moderators, Ambassador Abigail and Ms. Rhulani, Baloyi from SABC News, and to all our audiences who have joined us across the continent and beyond. We thank you for joining us and we welcome you in a very, very special way. Colleagues, the tourism value chain is the sum total of economic activity taking place between market and destinations. From the time a tourist embarks on board to the host country, all transit activities to when he or she returns to the source country, and situating women along this chain is revolutionary and should be meticulously be done. Are women content to situate themselves in SME activity along this chain, or would love to be counted as substantive players from high-profile activities, usually the preserve of men, such as pilots, cruise captains, hotel managers, tour operators, cruise ship owners, cruise shop owners, hotel owners, tourism activities operators? How does this generation of women want to be remembered? Are you the game changers who represent women across borders, waitresses, hotel housekeepers, taxi drivers, guides to women in tourism, and usher in a new season of enhanced self-esteem multi-skilling? Business acumenship and self-actualization, or you swim with the current and continue to reinforce stereotypes that have relegated our women to blue-collar vocations in this sector, which is, bar COVID-19 disruptions, the third global export earner after automobiles and chemicals. This converted employer of 1 in every 10 employees in the world and dearly a force for good. As African Tourism Board, we have envisioned the revolutionary role for women in this sector, starting with disruptive thinking, which asserts women as leaders, not followers. And it's therefore not coincidence. Our ambassadors and several of our technical committees, chairpersons are of women. In appreciating the implementation of Agenda 2063 by African Union in accelerating women's empowerment, active engagement and inclusion of the youth, we're saying that's far-fetched. We need to see a paradigm shift now, not in a few years' time. The flagship programs and projects on sustainable development goals should be prioritized, especially unlocking the doors for women, and it has to be done now. As African Tourism Board, ladies and gentlemen, we believe that a society is better when women are not taken for granted and are given equal respect, unlike some past and unfortunately some present generations that still believe in mediocrity. Her Excellency, Ambassador Lana Marx, I believe you will concur with me that this generation must and should value and entrust women with amazing responsibilities. Women are to be given equal opportunities in every economical sphere and be allowed to stand among and sometimes, of course, of men in all fields. Economically strengthening women would surely expedite the growth of African economies. Honorable Minister, the tourism industry therefore carries great hope and great burdens in the evolution of all the transitional economies. Sustained and healthy growth of this sector is pivotally necessary. So therefore, the public and the private sectors should prioritize the engagement and alignment of women as crucial role players in the tourism economy value chain, which as a result will surely birth result-driven economical growth. Tourism, therefore, should and must be one of the stabilizing factors of the continental communities. That is in creating jobs, supporting the development and equality across the gender spectrum, boosting productivity, expounding consumer choice, and also enabling cross-border communication channels as well as our supply chains. The real transformation and unity in Africa needs the reversal of many stereotypes, and tourism can be on the forefront of transforming the gender inequality and unify Africa holistically. African Tourism Board therefore stands as a lighthouse for all endeavors and efforts to bring together the nations of our continent, to realize our worth and appreciate what we possess as a continent. And it is very encouraging to see that our women are taking forefront as drivers in this transformation. Dear colleagues, we have two objectives with our focal point from here. The first is to drive our empowerment goals in a way we never dreamt of before. This is no time for cheap rhetoric. It is time for a constant. It is time for persistence, and it is time for relentless actions. No women, no youth, or underprivileged person in Africa should suffer the pain of being off guard by an event such as this in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I truly believe that by nature, women should drive and bring their forces of all life activities indeed, which is long overdue. It is time, therefore, to accelerate our effort to catch a new hype. Let all member states within our region and beyond be extremely sensitive to the marginalized. And secondly, within our definite target is the drive to consolidate our efforts, to consolidate our resources and privileges within our region to be so lucrative such that our region, our populace, both men and women, will enjoy equally the benefits of both domestic and international travel. This will definitely put our region on the world map and place us as a most preferred tourist destination. And by the way, this calls for women across the continent to unite, to rise, and break the divide that has been and still a hindrance towards the economic emancipation and gender equality. As we celebrate Women's Month, let no stone be left unturned. May it start with us right here today to embrace and fight for a change. And tourism is the right sector to demonstrate this great achievement. Let's get together, let's rally together towards making sure that there is equality, especially within our sector. Thank you so much.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much. Chairperson, Executive Chairperson, Africa Tourism Board, Mr. Cuthbert Ncube. We're grateful for your inspiring remarks and your call out to women to rise up and take up the mantle for tourism development in Africa. Thank you so much. To take our event forward, I would love to call on our next speaker, Ms. Annie Surgrue. She is the EDSC GESI WEE expert. She has worked on equity and justice issues for almost 30 years. She worked in the NGO sector from 1992 and has held senior management roles in both national and international organizations, working with cooperative, small businesses, and with smallholder farmers. Her work has had a strong focus on sustainable development as it interlinks with poverty, recognizing that justice will not be achieved without sustainable livelihoods. She is currently working with the EU Ecosystem Development for Small Enterprise Program, the EU-funded Ecosystem Development for Small Enterprise Program within the DSBO on the Gender and Social Inclusion Project to support women economic empowerment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Ms. Annie Surgrue, to talk on the EU's Ecosystem Development for Small Enterprise Program on women economic empowerment. Ms. Annie.
Oh, thank you very much for that introduction. I hope you can all hear me properly. Greetings and special greetings to the Honorable Minister for Tourism, Mmamloko Kubayi-Ngubane, Her Excellency, the US Ambassador to South Africa, Dr. Lana, the WOVA Committee Chairperson, Mr. Makatso Malwela, and the WOVA Chairperson, Ms. Angela Marta Diamanti, the ATB Ambassador, Ms. Abigail Olagbaye, and the ATB Chairperson, Mr. Cuthbert Ncube, and other speakers, the listeners, the participants. Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation so far. They have set the scene for what I'm going to tell you about, which is an EU-funded program with which I am working. It's a very large program. It's a 52 million euro program, of which 14 million is for technical assistance, and the rest is for what they call budgetary support to assist the Department of Small Business Development and its partner organizations to implement a number of interventions that will improve the ecosystem for small businesses. And I think it's, even though it is not focused on tourism specifically, I think it's very relevant for this talk today, as it's focused on the ecosystem in which tourism operates. Are you able to see my presentation on the screen? Is everyone able to see that?
No, it's not appearing.
I have to
is there something I should be doing?
Ma'am, what I will do, I have to make you a co-host. Then you can do this. Without a co-host, you won't be. Let me make you a co-host. You're now a co-host. You can share it. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm trying to do that, but somehow it seems to have removed my ability to get onto my Zoom thing to. Let me just see if I can do this. To co-host, are you able to share my screen for me?
Let me see if I can do this. It wouldn't let me do it, but you should be able to do it. There is a, next to participant chat, there is a share screen button on the bottom.
It has come up now. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think it's this one, is it?
There we go.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Right, so this is an EU-funded program. I'm going to take you very quickly through it. I don't want to labor all the points. I'm hoping that Dimakatso will be able to share it with you later. And so I will briefly give you an explanation of what it's about. Its key objectives are to improve the competitiveness of SMEs, improve their access to finance, and improve the regulatory and administrative environment. And this is largely because ecosystem findings across 6 domains show that small businesses are seriously impacted by lack of access to finance, increasing levels of informality, red tape. The BDS support, business development support, is fragmented. It isn't coordinated. There are low levels of business skills. There is generally a weak entrepreneurial environment. Now, of course, these things affect women as much as they do the general ecosystem, and I will go into that a little bit more in detail later. So the key activities are to work with the Department of Small Business Development on policy. And if I can highlight 2 areas in this particular slide. The one area is the harmonization of SMME policies, and this is largely around about the development of a master planning process which will help all sectors, including the Ministry for Tourism, to be able to develop policies that will be that will support their work with small businesses. And the other one is to enable evidence-based policy making through data collection, which is particularly weak. We have to improve that. Under SEDA, SEDA, of course, is a small enterprise development agency that operates very closely with the Department of Small Business Development, and it has a number of different business development support services through digital services and portals and various other activities that small businesses can access. And then there is CIFA, with their main activity is to provide access to finance, and the EDSE program is working very closely with them to improve the modalities in the way in which finance can be accessed. It's a very complicated slide. I just want to highlight 2 things here, which is that this work is across the green economy, it's across the township and rural economies, it's working with a number of different value chains and sectors. It's not limited only to 1 or 2 sectors. So now I come to the work that I'm doing, which is with the Gender and Social Inclusion Project, or what we call GESI, and the WE is the Women Economic Empowerment activity. And many of you have talked about some of the issues that arise as a result of the fact that most policy programs and support are generally unintentionally gender blind. The EU recognizes that gender and social inclusion is critical to making sure that any program on small enterprise development is successful. As you've all pointed out, 50% of our population are women. But more importantly than that, there are some interesting statistics, which are that 72% of all micro enterprises are women, whereas are run by women, whereas only 40% are small enterprises, and then only 20% are medium-sized. So women dominate the micro enterprise sector, where you see startups, where you see it being informal, where you see that women are not registered and therefore not able to access services. Women entrepreneurs are also underrepresented in support programs. In other words, you don't really find them to the same extent as men. And in many cases, women note that the type of services that are provided for them are inappropriate for a number of reasons. They're at the wrong times, they don't take cognizance of their own business needs, they don't actually give them the kind of support they need, which is more of a business networking, mentoring support, which differs to the support that male-owned businesses need. Women entrepreneurs are also less likely than male-owned businesses to access finance. In fact, there was an IFC report a couple of years ago that said that only 16% of all the loans were granted to women. And we also have the particular difficulty that data is disaggregated, but it's often not that useful. We need to know at a far more granular and nuanced level what are the successes and what are the failures in the services we're providing, the kind of businesses that women are running, what kind of problems they have, and this sort of information is generally not available. And it's these things that the EDSC program is working on trying to improve the disaggregated data collection, to apply a gender lens to policies and strategies, to ensure that they do address the issues that women are facing and remove that gender blindness that we find. Design interventions that have gender positive impacts. For instance, the EDSC is working with the She Trade program with the DSBD, which is run through the ITC, which will help 3 million women entrepreneurs connect by 2021. And it's a regional integration program, so I think it's particularly appropriate for what we're talking about today. It will create those market linkages across a whole range of different value chains. But it's also important that we derive lessons from those programs that have empowered women, that have supported women, that have seen the micro, unregistered, informal businesses grow, that we support them to become registered so that they can become smaller enterprises and medium-sized enterprises rather than remaining in the micro sector. And there's a number of different programs that the DSBD, the Department of Small Business Development, is supporting, largely through CIFA with its microfinance, its finance institution. And some of these are women dominated. The Spaza Shop support program, which facilitates cash flow and credit guarantee, it's 170 million rand. The Clothing and Textile Support Program, which provides skills and machinery for 105 million rand. Bakeries and Confectionery Support Program, it's a working capital investment program of 100 million rand. You could argue that the Automotive Aftermarket Support Program is not women dominated, but the EDSC is working with a number of different people to try and change that. And provide a credit guarantee scheme for 225 million rand. There is a hairdresser scheme, for instance, that is being planned. It's on hold at the moment. So there are a number of different initiatives. Most of these, where EDSC is providing support, are being done through what is called, and I mentioned it earlier, the budgetary support program, where the EU is providing 38 million euros directly to government through the National Treasury to support these kind of initiatives, so that there's a joint development and design of the program from all the different partners. And I think that's probably one of the most interesting ones for any of the South African participants here today. So thank you very much. I hope that that's given you some bit of a taste for what the EU is funding through our program. And I hope that Dimakatso will give you the presentation, and that you will feel free to contact us if you want more information.
Thank you so much, Ms. Annie, for your perspectives and for the wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. But definitely share the paper presentation with all our participants. To take this event forward, I would love to quickly invite our next speaker. Her name is Dr. Maureen Tonk. She is an international lawyer, a published author, an academic, and a businesswoman. She holds a PhD in international law from the Université de Strasbourg in France, where she successfully defended her thesis in French. She's a managing director of 10 ppm Academy and CEO of Coach Companion South Africa. She is the chairwoman of the Investstrong Group and board member of Pink Lady, which serves as an incubator for women in technology. She serves as executive chairwoman of Kuthwejo Resources. She was the founding chairwoman, of the board of the Young Women Business Network Corporate Finance Institution, YWBN CFI, which is working towards becoming the first majority women-owned mutual bank in South Africa. She is a professional speaker, a member of the Professional Speakers Association of South Africa, of Southern Africa, pardon me, PSASA. She is a leadership development expert who likes helping others. She likes helping others let their light shine. She teaches part-time at Wits Business School, WBS, on leadership, cultural intelligence, talent management, diversity management, and change management. She's a former senior civil servant. She served as the first Chief Operations Officer at the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, as Chief of Staff at the Ministry for Agriculture and Land Affairs, and as Operations Manager at the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. She worked as Project Officer for Botswana, Democratic Republic of Congo, South Africa, and Namibia at the African Management Services Company, AMSCO, implementing the African Training Management Services, ATMS. ATMS is a project of the World Bank, the African Development Bank, the International Finance Corporation, IFC, and the UNDP. Dr. Maureen Tonk is a keen amateur golfer and fitness fanatic too. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Dr. Maureen Tonk. Over to you, Dr. Maureen Tonk.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ambassador Abigail, the moderator. I'd like to observe, thanks for that introduction. It was, well, sometimes when people read this, I don't know if they're talking about me. Thank you. I'd like to observe all protocols. Minister Mmamloko Kubayi-Ngubane, Dr. Lana, the US Ambassador to South Africa, ATB Patron, Dr. Taleb Rifai. I'd like to acknowledge also who's just spoken now, our ATB executive chairperson, Mr. Cuthbert Ncube. I'd like to acknowledge ATB, the UN, the speaker just now, Ms. Lydia Bibi from the UNWTO, and acknowledge ATB Ambassador Makato, ATB Ambassador Angela Diamantino, who will speak after me, and as well as yourself, Ambassador Abigail. Thank you so much, and thank you for the program. Also, I've looked at, because I'm speaking on behalf of the Women's Committee, I'd like to thank so much the ATB. Chairperson, we really appreciate the support that we are receiving from the Women's Committee. We know that we arranged this event at a very short notice. And as reflected in your own speech, the fact that the ATB was able to just say, women, go ahead and do it, for us is testament to what you are saying, that you are not paying lip service as the ATB, you are duly paying attention to issues of gender and ensuring that women become the revolutionary force, as we have just said, that are going to be the disruptors in terms of ATB and in terms of the tourism industry. I'd like to, and also perhaps let me also acknowledge Thabo, who was one of the speakers today, and we thank you for accepting the invitation at such short notice and giving such a great interventional speech about the role of women, of ownership, when women have ownership, the extent to which that becomes the catalyst to ensure that women become economic drivers. Thank you for that. Minister Mmamloko, we have watched with great interest how you have really fought in terms of opening up the tourism sector and ensuring that despite the problems that we all know about, the limitations of the coronavirus, ensuring that we get the tourism sector back on board. I have watched with great admiration, being South African woman, the extent to which you have also pioneered and spoken passionately about how the lockdown disproportionately affects women in the tourism sector, and hence your push to get the government of South Africa to look into this matter and to play the role that it must play. We appreciate also your continued participation in the ministerial roundtable, to which you are always available and really supporting the ATB in its effort in terms of what we'd like to see as far as tourism is concerned. I especially appreciated your presentation when you spoke about the statistics. Indeed, the gender pay gap shows that women earn only 70% of what men earn. We're especially happy from the ATB Women's Committee about the programs that the Department of Tourism has put in place to support women. The 40% that's been set aside for women-owned SMEs for a period of 5 years. This is really great, and this indeed would be the kind of catalyst that we need to see when the government supports women. Ambassador to the US, of the USA to South Africa, Dr. Lana, I have read with admiration your profile when you were being introduced as the ambassador designate to South Africa when you came here. Knowing that you are South African and seeing the passion with which you push the issues as far as development is concerned is something that I admire. I'd like to say indeed, your presentation, part of your presentation spoke about the Young Women Business Network leadership program that the US government has done and it's continuing to implement to support women entrepreneurs. I must say that as a member of the corporate financial cooperative, the YWBN cooperative, I can attest that indeed our managing director, Nthabile Ngozi, was hosted by the United States government in 2016, where she traveled, and I think it was 2016 years, where she indeed traveled in the US, was connected to several enterprises. The program was so powerful, and she was linked to so many opportunities to ensure that our financial cooperative has supported the United States and finds linkages that ensure that as a woman-owned financial cooperative, we achieve the success that we need. I was very impressed also when you spoke about the WGDP fund that is available to business persons and women, especially on the continent of Africa. We are pleased to know that the government of the United States is available and continues to support business persons on the continent, but especially women, for us to thrive and to have the economic empowerment that you referred to. It is true indeed, several studies have been undertaken, not least of which by the United Nations Development Program, where it shows through its Human Development Index report, which is published every year, that whenever women are economically empowered, there's a direct effect, there's a ripple effect in terms of addressing all other development indices of a country. So we are therefore, we appreciate the effort in that regard that the government of the United States is making. For my part, I'd like to echo the speeches that have been made today and some of the studies that have been shown, or rather the presentations that have been shown. I'd like to write on the presentation that went just now from the UNWTO. Indeed, we appreciate the statistics that you have shared with us that shows that that women occupy micro-enterprises are predominantly overrepresented as far as micro-enterprises are concerned. The issues of access to finance remains one of the impediments that stand in the way for women to achieve, to be successful as business persons. One of the studies that's been done on a regular basis by McKinsey Global Institute, they call it the power of parity. This study has shown that when there is gender parity in the world, whenever the world acknowledges the other half of the human population that the Minister of Tourism has acknowledged to, whenever society acknowledges the role of women as equal partners and equal participants in the economy of the world, the Power of Parity report that is published annually by McKinsey Global Institute has shown that when that happens, the global GDP could have an increase of about 20% by the year 2025. This study was undertaken in 2015. I suspect that given the COVID pandemic, there might need to be some adjustment in terms of the projections. But be that as it may, what it actually shows is that the issue of women empowerment is no longer a social, it's no longer a social issue for us to address. There's a clear business case when the world acknowledges and give women equal participation in the world economy, starting from within our own countries, the global GDP increases. And this would be great as far as the UNDP Human Development Index report that shows on an annual basis. This would have then a direct impact in addressing all the SDGs that the United Nations puts before us every year. So therefore the case for gender parity is no longer just an issue of it would be nice to allow women to participate equally as equal participants in our society, but most importantly, as equal partners, as being drivers of economic development. Chairperson, ATB Chairperson, thank you so much for the passion with which you spoke about the role of women in the tourism sector, the role with which tourism can become a key for enabling economic development. Indeed, the Women's Group, we are finalizing our framework, and we shall soon be presenting to the ATB Project Hope, our framework that we'd like to be approved, that we'd like to work on as Women Committee in ATB, the African Tourism Board. But we have no doubt in our minds that we shall receive support as we have seen today. I'd like to acknowledge a number of the participants that I've seen, because it is on behalf of our committee that have attended the webinar, and I'd like to acknowledge them and be very pleased. Juergen from Hawaii, it's 2 a.m., but you are here with us. We appreciate your dedication and your commitment for being with us today. I have seen Diamantino from the SABC. All of us know her as one of the actresses, very well-known actresses in South Africa. We're really pleased that you saw the need to attend. I've seen a number of people that I'd like to call friends that I've seen participating, that have received and accepted our invitation to participate. But from the inbox as well, I've been reading the comments. We have participants from across the continent. And for me, this is great. This is what we really want. This is what we truly want with the Women's Committee. Because the African Tourism Board is a continental body. It's a body that is meant to represent women in the tourism sector across the continent. We are therefore pleased that we see a number of them participating today. Neti Makaso, on behalf of whom I'm actually speaking, she's the true chairperson of the Women's Committee, but of course she had another role she had to play today. I'd like to congratulate you on putting together this program at such short notice and ensuring that it is a success that it is. I've appreciated listening to your presentation about the work that WOVA is doing. And after I have spoken, we'll hear from Ambassador Diamante, who is also in Women of Value Africa. With those few words, I'm mindful of the time. Ambassador Adesina Olagbaye, I don't want to speak further than that. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you indeed to the ATB leadership for affording our committee this opportunity today.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Dr. Maureen Tonk, for those very powerful remarks, and for acknowledging, all the support that we have received today, and all the everyone who has played a significant role in making this event a success. Thank you very much for that. We will soon be rounding up our event, and we also would be having the question and answer session right about now. And afterwards, and to round up, we would be having closing remarks from Ms. Dimakatso Mawela, and of course, our beloved Dr. Taleb Rifai. So I would want to, at this point, hand over to my co-moderator and sister, Rhulani Baloyi, to move the event forward by taking the question and answer session. Thank you. Ms. Rhulani, are you in the meeting room? Okay, I guess we move on. So if we have any questions, please, we can raise.
Hello?
Okay, yes, over to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Sister Abigail, for doing so well with the program this afternoon. I just want to say, can everybody start preparing their questions before we go there? I think it would be prudent that at this moment we call Miss Angela Marta Diamante, Women of Value Africa and ATB Ambassador, to come and join us to talk to us about promoting regional enterprises and supplier development and strategic partnerships. And as she comes to talk to us, Miss Angela Diamante, can we please get our questions ready, because that's where we're going to go to, so our special guests can be able to engage with our deliberations. I've been watching some of what you've been saying on our line, and it is very impressive, and most of it is very positive. Ms. Diamante, is over to you.
So she had actually sent in her apology. I think she's having some technical issues in joining us. So she had sent her apology.
All right. So, but we are very grateful for all the speakers this far. Now we're going to go to the question and answer sessions, where we're going to be taking questions, and then for all our speakers who are still with us. And then we are ready to start now. Anyone with the first question?
Rhulani, if I can interrupt just a little bit, I just made you a co-host. So when you click on participants, you see there are 3 people raising their hand. So you can call them and then click on lower the hand after they speak.
Yes, so we have
what I would suggest is that the first person with the, because I'm not able to see who they are from where I'm sitting, can the person introduce themselves, which organization they come from and which country they come from? We can start now.
So if you like, I can help you out here, because I see the names. I can call the names in order, if that's okay. Would that help you?
Okay, please do that. Can we please take the first 3 questions?
Okay, the first
and
is
then
Mohammed Udin. Mohammed, you need to unmute yourself, please. Okay, Mohammed is muted, so you cannot speak when you're muted. Just click on unmute. If not, we can go to the next person who will get back to, oh no, there it is. Mohammed, you're now able to speak.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Hi, Mohammed, we can hear you. Can we please take the next person?
He's muted again. The next, it's Emmanuel Frimpong.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Emmanuel Frimpong. I'm calling from Accra, Ghana. And first of all, let me thank the executives of the Women of Value Africa for this wonderful program that you put together. My question actually goes to the executives. Usually the challenge we have is we don't bring our young women up when it comes to developing women. Do you have some program where you are helping young women so that by the time they grow, they know the position that they are to take in place of management, establishing their own businesses? Do you have some sort of training for young women in schools? So that is my question. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Can we please take the next two questions before we go back to our guests?
Okay, we have one more now in queue. It's Katongo Lungo. Katongo, if you can please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning. Thank you, thank you, Juergen. Also want to appreciate the ambassador at the SENA for well-presented women. So my question initially was, I want to direct it to the Minister of Tourism if she is available for South Africa, because I noticed women participation, especially is a concern across all Africa. I say so because we don't give women most of a chance. An example is South African Airways. We had an executive CEO who was acting. She wasn't given chance to finish the program, to implement the program that she started, especially post-COVID, because South African Airways is part of tourism. So now the question is, what is the government doing about it to see to it that women are given chance, not just to act, but to implement projects or program? So maybe that's the question, because it's a concern where you just we don't give chance to women, they just act, then at the same time they are removed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Sister Ndeka Mali has just challenged us here. She's saying, and it's men again here talking for women. So can we have any one question from a woman before we go back to our special guests?
There's a question from Kezia, and I'm so sorry, I pronounced this probably completely wrong, Mikviso. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, I have unmuted. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Kezia Mkwizu from Tanzania. And as a woman, I've been very impressed with your webinar. The presenters have really been very, very informative. And I have been learning from the speakers, especially Professor Taleb, how he's talked about African women, that they are very strong, and also other speakers have spoken about inclusiveness. So it has shown that there is strength in African women, and I think there will be just a few changes that need to be done, probably in the grassroots, as the previous presenter just said. It's about growing the girl child. It's about instilling those strengths in them from when they are young. Because if you do that from when they are young, then they become more positive, they become more engaging, they don't even be scared to participate in international forums, national forums. So it's about starting it from grassroots. So As a woman from Africa, that is what I would really like to contribute. So apart from the webinar being great, and I'm pleased to be participating and learning, but my contribution is that we need to instill those values on the girls when they are girls, so that when they grow up with all those qualities in them, and it becomes so easy to unleash them when the moment is right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sisi, for your valued input about how do we go back to our grassroots communities and how do we help the girl child to grow up being involved in entrepreneurship, in tourism.
Can you unmute yourself, please, Rhulani?
Yes, I'm doing that. Thank you so much.
No, it wasn't you. It's Rhulani. I think Rhulani. It was my mistake. I apologize. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Rhulani, we can hear you. We can hear you fine.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Do we have another question?
I don't see anyone raising a hand.
Okay.
It's easy to do if you want to. Just click on participant. And
okay.
There's a blue button.
Okay, thank you very much for your input, Sisi, that we have all been challenged as women that we must go back to our grassroots communities and empower the girl child. So what I'm going to suggest now is that any of our speakers, can they answer the two questions? The one about how do we empower young people, especially those who are still in schools, and the second one to the minister, how does government help? How is government intending to make sure that how is government going to make sure that women are put in positions of decision making? I see now Sister Ndeka has raised her hand. Maybe let's take a question so they can be three, then we can go back to our speakers. Sister Ndeka.
Sorry, Rhulani, my apologies to come through. I was scheduled to be until 4 o'clock. I've got another engagement. If I can answer and be released, I would appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Minister. This is over to you now.
No, thanks a lot. Just dealing with the issue that relates to women leadership. In South Africa, as we speak today, when you look at our cabinet, you'd find 50% of ministers in the national cabinet are women. And quite a lot you'd see in terms of pushing for in the institutions, especially government related. There is quite a lot of pressure even for private sector. As Thabo was saying earlier on, he's not in government, he's in business. But because the country as well, you find yourself having to answer if you arrive at a meeting with a whole delegation of women, or the whole delegation of men without women, you will find yourself having to answer. So there's quite a lot of progress that has been done in terms of ensuring that women are in leadership, leads in terms of our boards, leads in terms of our state-owned entities. There is quite a lot in terms that we still have to do when it relates to our companies that are GESI listed. This is Johannesburg Stock Exchange listed. That's where we still have a much gap. We've put in place policies that promotes women empowerment, women in position. Major part is for us to be able to enforce the law, and also the issue around making sure that we can monitor. Where there are gaps as well, it's the issue, I think many of us globally, even in platforms, who are having discussions about legislating the issue or criminalizing the pay difference between men and women for the same job. There are those discussions from a policy point of view. There's quite a number of support in terms of programs. Either you talk, I was Minister of Science and Technology. I had Women in Science and Technology celebration would publish during the month of August, for example. You'll have a whole splash of women in science and innovation who are scientists, and the support in terms of finances. You come to water sector, you'll find women being promoted. You come to engineering, you find that. So there's quite a lot of even role models within the South African context that you can find of women. But also when you look in terms of the continent, you'll find quite a number of women who are rising in terms of that. We need to provide the necessary support. As you know, the former Deputy President of South Africa is currently the UN Women Director, who champions quite a lot of issues around women. So we do have those in terms of government, but governments across the world have to make it policy. And I know sometimes people say you don't have to do quota. Quota helps to reach a particular level. You've got to acknowledge that some of the people have run, it's like when you run a marathon and then you put others ahead, you put others at the back, and you think that they have equal opportunity of running. We need to acknowledge across the world that women are behind, and therefore they need to be given a little bit of push to be able to compete fairly. So policies around quota that includes quota are important for us to reach equality in society and promotion of women in terms of leadership, and creating role models. As you talk about young people, creating role models for young people to see that if that minister is a woman and is doing it, then I can do it. If the ambassador is a woman and is doing very well, very successful. I mean, Ambassador Lana Marx is one of the successful women globally that we can make a reference to. And if young girls see these role models, then they will believe it is possible. So we just need to make sure that every time we promote women, but not only promote them, we do show the young girls and boys that it is possible by showcasing the examples and making sure that they know of their role models that exist. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Am I still audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. For my part, Minister, I just want to say, when you go back into cabinet, can we please just try to include women with disabilities in everything that South Africa does? We should not remember people with disabilities only in November, December, when we mark the International Day of People with Disabilities. There's a lot of women with disabilities in our communities who would love to be active participants in the South African economy and in the African tourism spectrum. So this is just a comment from me as a moderator, that I would suggest that we always, as a country, we have been doing very well with focusing on eradicating issues of racism, issues of gender inequality, issues of class, but we have not really been doing much on including people with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rhulani. We'll definitely continue, and maybe we can have a session just to talk about what we are doing in the tourism, and maybe get feedback if that's some more we need to do. I do believe that there is quite a lot that we still have to do, but we can have that conversation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister. I think it would be selfish of us, after you have given us 2 hours of your time and more, that we would want to detain you in this session. We feel very grateful that you have given us your time. And if there are any other deliberations that are going to come, we will surely forward them to your office. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, let's continue with the session. Can we take more questions?
Sorry, may I just interject as well? I wanted to wait until the minister was done, but unfortunately I also must exit at this time for additional meetings, and it was a tremendous honor to be part of this forum today. I want to thank you enormously.
Dr. Lana Marx, we just want to take this opportunity to thank you as well for spending more than 2 hours of your time with us in this session, sharing with us your energies, your innovations, your interest in South Africa, in Africa, and in the world. We are so grateful that you have taken your time to spend with us. We will release you so you can continue with your other engagement. We highly appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you enormously.
Ladies and gentlemen, we come before you. Now we continue with our sessions. I don't know if those, the two gentlemen who asked questions, if they are happy with the answers they received, but I know that Ambassador Abigail has a program, has a social program that helps young people. Can she share something with us? If she's still there, I see she just left. We'll come back to that. Any other questions?
There are three people raising hand. I don't know if you can see this. Rhulani.
Yes, Polly Makita.
Good afternoon.
Hello? Hello, we're struggling to hear you. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're very loud and clear. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, moderator. My name is Pauline Maketa, and my question would rather be not only to South Africa, but to most of our other participants as well, as to seeing the battle that women, especially small businesses, had to go through because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Do we perhaps, have we considered so far, how can we assist the smaller upcoming businesses, and how can we also assist them to remain sustainable? Why am I saying that? It's because when you look at the broader value chain of tourism, it always so happened that the smaller businesses within tourism always suffer the worst. I mean, I always make an example of the soccer, when we host soccer in 2010. People really prepared themselves, but they were the people that lost out the most. So when we talk about transformation, can we really talk about transformation at its best and also work on implementation plans as to how do we assist the smaller people, especially in rural areas where people do not have access to all the beautiful presentations that we have, and also how to apply for the least just to be funded or just to be taken through a program. So I think that is more where we have to concentrate, and not only in South Africa, but Africa as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we please, Mohammed has also raised his hand again.
Colleagues,
Hi, Mohammed.
I came from Bangladesh. Congratulations. I am from Bangladesh. Provide Fahima tourism. I in the meeting. Very nice speech, everybody. I'm sure your speech, very great speech. I share. I am your follower successfully. Thank you, everybody. I'm greeting Bangladesh. Thank you, my tourism network.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. And then any other questions? And do we have any other questions? I think because we don't have any other questions.
There's one hand, I don't know if you see it, from Justa.
Hi, I don't have a specific question, but I just Hi, how are you? I just want to congratulate everybody. Thank you guys for having the session. And I wanted to speak out as a millennial. And one thing that I want to say about tourism, about women, we as the millennial, we are ready. When it comes to tourism, we are ready to work on every aspect of the tourism sector. And we wanna, and we are asking that our boards pay attention to us as millennials. We are really good at storytelling. We are really good at influencing people. We are really good at, when it comes to marketing nowadays, storytelling is key. And the tourists take advantage of the millennials and see who is doing what they're doing their best in, and whatever they're doing, to be able to use it as a way to tell the story of our countries. Myself, I'm from Tanzania, but I live in New York, and I also live in Tanzania at the same time. When it comes to Tanzania, promoting that country, I love my country. I love the village I come from. I love my cultural heritage, and I want to share that with the whole world. So, like, as the ministers of tourism and people within the travel sector or the tourism sector, take advantage of the millennials and them being on social media 24/7 to use them to tell your stories. But then include them in your business marketing budgets. Don't just take advantage of us. Include us in your marketing budgets so we could be able to do the job of promoting our countries, but then also benefit from it. And that's how we stimulate our economies. So that's the use us. We are here as millennials. We are the future. We're going to be taking over this world. Either you like it or not, we are the future. The average age in Africa is 17 and a half. So we are coming strong. So be ready for us.
Thank you very much. We really love your energy, and thank you for allowing yourself, for saying, I'm open, I'm volunteering. We as young people, we will not include you, we'll partner with you so we can keep the world going and keep your light shining on your village in Tanzania. Sister Ndega Mali, it's your time. I see you say your hand has been up for a while. It's time for you.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt my co-moderator. Because of time, I would want to request if we can bring the event to a close after this, after we take this question.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thandeka Mali. Thandeka? Hi, Thandeka. Hi, Thandeka. Hi, Thandeka.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
My question is to Miss Annie from the Department of Small Business Development, I think. One is how is that program that she was talking on, whether it is a decentralized program, and how is the economic benefits of the program itself being sort of monitored? What is the criteria that they're actually using for that particular program, and the impact that the program has had so far in South Africa on the SMME sector, especially because the department, yes, the Department of Small Business Development and CETA and CIFA have very much what one could call low impact programs in the South African government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sis Thandeka. We're about to close. Can we get some of our speakers to answer to some of the questions that have been asked. Any volunteers?
I'm happy to volunteer
Yes, thank you.
She specifically addressed it to me. Thanks so much for that question, Thandeka. Yes, this program is looking to improve the performance of the SMME environment in South Africa. The program that I'm working with is an EU-funded program, working within the Department of Small Business Development, but I do not work for the Small Business Development. And it's working with CEDA, CIFA, and Department of Small Business Development. We have developed very clear indicators to guide our progress and ensure that we measure our impacts. My work is specifically on the gender and social inclusion activities of data collection and understanding, getting evidence base for how programs work is very important for our work. So I'm happy to provide you with my email address and we can have more discussions later, because it's quite an in-depth question you asked, and I'd be very happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Annie. I just want to say thank you very much. Someone was just asking after this, are we going to have a work in progress? But as we come closer to the end, we're going to give again we are going to ask for closing remarks from Ms. D Makadzumawele and Dr. Taleb Rifai to give us the closing remarks, because they were the ones who invited us to this session. And when they give us the closing remarks, they will surely look at some of the comments that you have been posting during this session and before, of what your expectations and what the deliberations have been. Over to you, Ms. D and Dr. Taleb Rifai.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rhulani, and for moderating. And we just want to take this moment to thank everyone for coming once again. In absentia, we'd like to appreciate our minister, our ambassador, who also has left, as well as the chairperson, the patron, the CEO for Touch HD. We also want to thank Annie from EDSE, EU program, Ms. Lydia in her absentia, also Dr. Tonk, as well as our moderators. To all our participants, we want to say thank you for coming. This was a session, it wasn't just a talk. What we are going to do from here, we are going to have the follow-up meetings with all our key stakeholders. As we said, this is a program that needs to be implemented. We are going to follow up on all your comments that you have sent. We also have your information, meaning going forward, we are going to also share each and every program that we are planning to implement and all the sessions. If you are interested to join ATB, you are interested to connect with Women of Value Africa, you are more than welcome to send us a request via email, and we can take forth the discussion with you. From all of us, on behalf of ATB ambassadors, as well as Women of Value Exco, we say thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Mawela, for the great opportunity that you invited all of us to come here. And then on behalf of my co-moderator, Ms. Abigail Olagbaye, we want to thank you for a beautiful session, and we have come to the end. I wish you all a great afternoon, and may you all be blessed always.
I think we have Taleb still, right?
Hi, Juergen.
Yes.
Are we still here?
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, everybody. It's been a wonderful, wonderful session. I did not miss any word of what was said. I think this shows how powerful thinking is, how powerful the narrative is about Africa. That's what I was trying to say right from the beginning. Africa is on the rise, without doubt. And Africa is the future. God has not saved the wrath of COVID-19 to Africa by accident. God knows what he's doing. So I think the world is looking at you now. When it comes to women, it's even more special. Women in Africa are different from any other women all over the world. Women in Africa are carrying the responsibilities of keeping livelihoods. You are the blood and soul of this continent. I say it, and I'm not saying this just to pay lip service to anybody. Women are wonderful in Africa. Look at the people that participated here with us today. They have been really proving to be so enthusiastic and so full of life. As to the millenniums, which is the lady that I was most impressed with a few minutes ago, I want to tell her, definitely the future is yours. We know that very well. It's not ours. It's not ours anymore. But the point is that we need to work together now. The new system and the world order now has brought every country on its own. There is no international system anymore. Nobody hears about the EU anymore. I'm sorry, say this. Nobody hears about the UN anymore. We have bilateral relationships with countries. Everything has gone down to the base. The world order is being shaped anew now. We have to be part of it. We as a continent in Africa have the chance and the opportunity to build this new world order. Thank you all very much for this. I assure you ATB will always be there for you. On the behalf of our chairman, Mr. Cuthbert, I would like to thank all of you for preparing this wonderful meeting at a short notice as you did. It was very, very stimulating. I assure you, we all came out of Africa after all. It's a fact. All humanity came out of East Africa. So we have to go back to Africa now for leadership and inspiration. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful left of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Sis Abigail, do you want to say anything?
Just to thank all our participants. It's been awesome having everyone, in attendance. We've had a very, very vibrant session, and we definitely I wish we can have this more often. Yes, but definitely we will still call on all our participants to join us, subsequently. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I agree with you. It was a very beautiful afternoon to spend learning and getting new energies. Thank you very much. Juergen, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.